Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mishnapad Paramahansa Paravijaka Ashtotter the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravijaka Ashtotter the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Yeah, we definitely did 13 yesterday. Do you remember chanting it? 13? You remember. We're 8, 19, 13. I just want to confirm, I'm pretty sure I remember chanting this verse. Everyone was saying Mano Pabrimhita, and I was saying Maho Pabringhita. What do you say, Ram? We sent it yesterday. Okay. All right, so this is Vamanadev praising Bali and his clan, going back to Prahlad. All right, if you got something to see it, call it up. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay. So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by Srila Prabhupada, Canto 8, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 19, Lord Vamanadev begs charity from Bali Maharaj, text number 14. Pita Prahrada Putras Te Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swam Ayur Dvija Lingebhyo Devebhyo Adat Sayachitaha Pita Prahrada Putraste Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swamayo Dvija Lingebhyo Devebhyo Datsayachitaha Pita Prahrada Putraste Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo Devebhyo Datsayachitaha Pita Prahrada Putraste Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo Devebhyo Datsayachitaha Pita Prahrada Putraste Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo Devebhyo Datsayachitaha. Go ahead. Pita Prahrada Putraste Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo Devebhyo Datsayachitaha. Pita Prahrada Putraste Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo Devebhyo Datsayachitaha. David. Pita Prahrada Putraste Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo Devebhyo Datsayachitaha. Ladies. Pita Prahrada Putraste Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo Devebhyo Datsayachitaha. Anyone online?
Pita Prahrada Putraste
Pita Prahrada Putraste
Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah
Tadvidvan Vijavatsalah
Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo
Swamayo Dvijalingebhyo
Devebhyo Datsayachita
Devebhyo Datsayachitaha. Pita, father, Prahrada Putraha, the son of Maharaj Prahlad, Te, your, Tadvidvan, although it was known to him, Vijavatsalah, still, because of his affinity for Brahmins, Swam, his own, Ayuhu, duration of life, Dvijalingebhyaha, who were dressed like Brahmanas. Devebhyaha, unto the demigods. Adat, delivered. Saha, he. Yachitaha, being so requested. Translation. So this is Vamana speaking to Bali. Your father, Virochana, the son of Maharaj Prahlad, was very affectionate toward Brahmanas. Although he knew very well that it was the demigods who had come to him in the dress of Brahmanas, at their request he delivered to them the duration of his life. Purport. Maharaj Virochana, Bali's father, was so pleased with the Brahmana community that even though he knew that those approaching him for charity were the demigods in the dress of Brahmanas, he nonetheless agreed to give it. All right, I'll read text 15 myself, just to English. You also have observed the principles followed by great personalities who are household of Brahmanas, by your forefathers, and by great heroes who are extremely famous for their exalted activities. O King of the Daityas, from your majesty, who come from such a noble family and who are able to give charity munificently, I ask only 3 paces of land to the measurement of my steps. Purport. Lord Vamanadev wanted 3 paces of land according to the measurement of his footsteps. He did not want more than necessary. But although he pretended to be an ordinary human child, he actually wanted the land comprising the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems. This was just to show the prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I don't know how far I'm supposed to read here. Oh, to 18? Okay, thanks. O King, controller of the entire universe, although you are very munificent and are able to give me as much land as I want, I do not want anything from you that is unnecessary. So before I read the rest of the translation, who can give me a quick definition of munificent? Generous, yes. Now Prabhupada would often use the word magnanimous in place of munificent. But I have this little mantra. Magnanimous, he is someone who's famous for forgiving. He's very forgiving of any. And munificent is one who's very famous for giving. So, I do not want anything from you that is unnecessary. If a learned Brahmin takes charity from others only according to his needs, he does not become entangled in sinful activities. Purport. A Brahmin or a sannyasi is qualified to ask charity from others, but if he takes more than necessary, he is punishable. No one can use more of the Supreme Lord's property than necessary. Lord Vamanadev indirectly indicated to Bali Maharaj that he was occupying more land than he needed. In the material world, all distresses are due to extravagance. One acquires money extravagantly and also spends it extravagantly. Such activities are sinful. All property belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all living beings who are sons of the Supreme Lord have the right to use the Supreme Father's property. But one cannot take more than necessary. This principle should especially be followed by Brahmins and sannyasis who live at the cost of others. Thus Vamanadev was an ideal beggar. For he asked only 3 paces of land. Of course, there is a difference between his footsteps and those of an ordinary human being. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his inconceivable prowess, can occupy the entire universe, including the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems, by the unlimited measurement of his footsteps. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, what can we say? Vamanadev is, what should we say, a con game he's pulling here? He's come as a little Brahmin, diminutive, and knowing that Bali Maharaj is very deferential to the Brahmins. And so wait a minute. Did I do Om Jnana? I don't think I did Om Jnana yet. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananana-shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So he's taken this role, not just an ordinary Brahmin, but a mini Brahmin. He's diminutive. You weren't here, I don't think. The word dwarf, have you ever looked it up in the dictionary? You heard that already, yeah. So he used dwarf as an adjective. He's a dwarf Brahmin, meaning he's a diminutive Brahmin. And he was recognized as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Shukracharya. And Shukracharya told, or will tell, I don't think he's told them yet, don't give him anything. Even though you promised, you can go back on the promise and like that. Because this is Vishnu, he'll take everything, he could see. So Bali rebelled at that, because he was trained, or innately he knew that one should give charity to the Brahmins, of course, which he knew, but also to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, he was thinking, well, if he's the Supreme Lord, then that's even more need to give him charity. But Shukracharya, as will be explained here, famously said he was considering his own situation. If he gives, if Bali promises 3 steps of land, Vamanadeva will take everything, then what about me? Who's going to maintain me? See? So he was very selfish. So that broke the relation between Bali and Shukracharya, which was Vamanadev's plan. You may remember when he appeared to Aditi, and he spoke to her, and he said, well, the demigod, the demons have conquered because they have the favor of the Brahmins, especially Shukracharya. Whereas the demigods had made some offense, and so they didn't have the blessing of the Brahmins anymore. So I can't just go and take back the land and kill all the demons, which he does sometimes. And besides, Bali is a great devotee, so he wanted to bring him back into his devotional mood and position. So he had all of these things that he had to do. So this was a very clever, Krishna's so clever, most clever, 100% clever, way of doing it, by breaking Bali's relation with the Brahmins and then taking him down to Rasatala, so he get out of the whole position of being head of the demons. That's also important. And thereby reclaiming the lands for the demigod. The demigods then conquered the demigods can conquer the demons now because they lost the blessing of the Brahmins head by Shukracharya. So that's the whole plan. But the principle is that the Brahmin, the sannyasis, those who are in a renounced order, or even the Brahmins who are the head of the society, the intelligent class, they're meant to live as austerely as possible. I listen to Prabhupada lectures every day, and he happened to be talking about this point. And he described, I forget who it was, but there was a learned Brahmin who was he would be consulted by kings and things like that. So the king came and thought, can I give you anything? Do you need anything? Because he looked to be very poverty-stricken. He was thin, he was living simply, everything. So no, I'm fine. My wife, she you see this tamarind tree? The leaves are nourishing. So we get the leaves from this tamarind tree, and she boils them up and steams them, and that's my vegetable. And he said something else simple that he was able to eat with that, and so I'm fine. I'm fine. So the advantage of this, if you just think of it, project up to today's situation, where you have an intellectual class, but they're all too prone to be being bought off by the rich class, the capitalists who have accumulated so much money. And like you have, just this is kind of a mundane example, but you have a present day situation where you have the leadership of the country is, I don't want to get into trouble. They listen to everything, they maybe pick me up. But the point is that they're deviating from the strict, injunctions of the Constitution. getting into the colleges and trying to dictate what they teach or don't teach, and if they don't, then they take away this funding, and all of this stuff is just unprecedented. So you have a situation where the intelligentsia, even some colleges caved in and said, okay, they're being oppressed by the corrupt so-called Kshatriya class, the leadership. So that's a serious danger in society. When the leadership becomes corrupt, then it's Kali Yuga. Then we know the taxation. What do the leaders do? They just tax the people and divide it amongst themselves rather than spend it on maintaining the country. So it's a very difficult time. So Vamanadeva is giving this very important principle, that those who are in leadership position, and that includes the Brahmins and the sannyasis and so forth, that they have a responsibility to maintain their purity so that their authority can be maintained and they can actually lead society in the proper way. So that's what he's talking about here, is that I do not want anything from you that is unnecessary. If a learned Brahmin takes charity from others only according to his needs, he does not become entangled in sinful activities. So it's an important principle here. But of course, then on the other side, you can say, well, but this is a whole, I don't want to say con, but it's a deception. It is a deception on Vamanadev's part. He takes these 3 steps of land, and Prabhupada, he says, Bali was, because he's a small Brahmin. If he's a regular sized Brahmin, maybe his steps would take a little something more, but he was small. So what could he take? But it's for ultimate good. In other words, he's performing this little he's tricking Bali. But for Bali's own good and for the good of the universe and everything, so therefore, and it's Krishna doing it. Krishna sometimes does things like that. He'll do some deception, or did he? The whole thing about when Krishna, they asked, did he eat earth? You remember Balaram? He accused him of eating earth. So Krishna denied it. So what do we think? He said, no, they're lying about me. They're telling lies, So I think the assumption, the understanding is that it was true. He ate earth, all to set up the whole pastime, so that then he could reveal to his mother the whole universe in his mouth, this whole pastime. So sometimes Krishna will tell lies or do some things like that in order for the greater cause, for the greater good. But we shouldn't imitate him in that way. So here, this part is absolutely true, is that the Brahmins and the sannyasis should live very austerely, and this is where their authority comes from. Because if sannyasis and Brahmins are meant to be realized that becoming entangled in the material world in the sense of me and mine is death for the soul. Not literally, but birth, old age, disease, and death. So the leaders of society, especially the Brahmins, sannyasis, and acharyas, they're meant to live very exemplary lives and very austere and detached, so that they can show how one can be fully satisfied being simply attached to Krishna, attached to the Lord. You remember the verse, what is it? Chaktvatur namashesha mandalapati shaining sadatuchava. This is my favorite of the 8 verses about the Goswamis. Chaktvatur namashesha mandalapati shaining sadatuchava. So that first line says, and especially referring to Rupa, Sanatan, and Raghunath, who gave up millions of dollars and influence in the case of Rupa and Sanatan within the government, everything, completely gave it up as insignificant. And Raghunath, he wasn't attracted at all. He would have been a billionaire or something, a landowner. And Turnam, Chaktva Turnam, without think, should I or shouldn't I? Maybe I shouldn't give it all up. So keep a couple of accounts here and then just no. They immediately gave it all up without second thought, as tuchavat, insignificant. All of this material influence and wealth and everything. And what do they do that for? Budva dina ganesha ko karunaya kopina kandashido. They would, one of their main motives was to show by example as an act of mercy for the conditioned souls. That's a Dina Ganesha. Dina Gana are the wretched, souls who are conditioned and suffering in Kali Yuga. Dina Ganesha go, Buddha Dina Ganesha, Karunaya. So they took on, austere clothes. They showed by austerity how one can live in a very austere manner. But then the third line is that Gopi Bhavada Samatabdal Halika Lolamagno Mahur. They showed that this is real wealth. That the real wealth is here. They became most wealthy. Again and again, they were diving into the ocean of the highest levels of the gopis' love for Krishna, and they were enjoying that like anything. They didn't showing, that was part of their preaching and part of their lifestyle. So that is a strategy that they showed, and doing that for preaching. So this is another little thing that's happening here, and he's going to, of course, as soon as he says yes, you can have it, take it, then he expands into the universal form. With one foot he's covering the whole world. With the other foot he's the rest of the universe, pokes through, and the Ganges starts leaking through, the causal ocean's coming through. So Bali says, oh my God, what did I do? I just gave him 3 steps of land and he took everything. No, he was ecstatic to see it, his Lord. So he's bringing out Bali's real nature, and the final, surrender was, he said, well, okay, you gave me 3 steps of land, and now I've got only 2 steps. I've covered everything. Where shall I put my 3rd step? And he got the answer right on my head. So he surrendered everything, his body. But the interesting is, then they said, oh, okay, Bali, you can rule now. No, he arrested him. He arrested him and pulled him down to Rasatala. There's no sign that Bali was upset about it, because Vamana promised to accompany him there and be his doorman, serve him. So the whole thing is ultimately turns out nicely. Okay. So Vamadev indicated that Bali Maharaj himself was occupying more land than he needed. In the material world, very important, all distresses are due to extravagance. One acquires money extravagantly and also spends it extravagantly. So, the Isha Upanishad famously begins, not the invocation, but mantra 1, Isha Vashamidam Sarvam Yatkinchit Jagat Jagat Tena Chaktena Bunjita Magadakasya Svidhanam. So this is a central principle. That everything belongs to God. And He controls and owns everything. So we're entitled to take our quota for what we need, but not more than that. That you can live, maintain your family, or maintain yourself, but that's it. Otherwise, you get extravagant sense gratification, and what we see today is this greed, so much greed, They've got billions, oh, we need more. Give us a tax break. It's like this society is upside down, So this very important. That what does it say? Well, of course, Rishikesha Sevanam, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. That our senses belong to Krishna, and they become fulfilled when they're used in the service of Krishna. That's when we actually feel happy. That's bhakti, Sarvapadi Vinimukta. So all these activities are sinful. All the property belongs to the Lord, and all living beings who are sons of the Lord have the right to use the Lord's property, but one cannot take more than necessary. Okay. All right, any discussion on this part of the pastime? I don't know whether I'm supposed to read more, but I'm going to. Go ahead.
Is it sinful also to keep savings, or is savings within a certain parameter?
Well, a certain parameter. Because things come up, the car, somebody wrecks your car, it's parked on the street. I mean, this is the world we live in, And if you don't have facility to use your car, you may not be able to go to work. So, it's good to have some savings there. But at the same time, when, holidays come up, to give generously as far as possible for the glory of the Lord. All right, so Bali now answers. O son of a Brahmin. He's going to read, oh, he's going to read this one? Well, that doesn't mean I can read it. It's ever fresh. Unless we want to end now. It's up to you. Anyone online have any ideas? Questions? Objections? Guess not. Some nectar shlokas. You have something? Well, I think I'd be on safer ground with some nectar shlokas. All right, we can do that. And I was getting ready to come over, and I get up pretty early, around 2:30. So I have, and I was just, as I was getting ready, ironing stuff and getting, I was reviewing, I was just chanting some of my poems. It's one thing to chant in the Sanskrit. It's very beautiful and, it's supreme. But the whole thing is, you got to understand the meaning. And of course I do, basically. But really, if you know the grammar and how, in other words, if you understand the Sanskrit like you know the English, then it's just as enlivening. But I said, well, let me just chant this one that I know is a poem, and I made it as a poem, and I was chanting this one. And I realized that is a great gift that we've been given from the Acharyas. These writings. Of course, Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada worked so hard to give us the basic gifts of Bhakti literature. And Bhagavatam you could study till the end of life and be fully fulfilled. But it just so happens that I had a friend named Kushakrata, who I lived with actually in 1977 and part of 78. And he was a kind of an avadut type, He was down here in the mid-70s, and they would send him on Sankirtan. And he would go out in the same sweatshirt every day, and he would stand on a corner, and he would just hold the books out there. That was how he did Sankirtan. That's what I heard anyway. So that, so that didn't last very long, obviously, But it turns out he was a super genius, and he learned the whole Bhagavad Gita. All the verses and everything. So Jayatirtha was the leader of LA at that time, when I got there in mid-70s. He invited him to come and give a Bhagavad Gita class to the devotees and train them up and everything, So the first class, the problem was that he was dealing with the devotees and the questions as if they were like sixth graders or something, It was a little bit off-putting, and gradually the devotees stopped going to the class, So that wasn't his role. That didn't work out. But it turned out that he taught himself Sanskrit. There was a whole Sanskrit department there because Prabhupada's books were still being printed and everything, So he joined the Sanskrit department. But there really wasn't so much, work for somebody. But that he was there, and he was doing that. And then he said, well, I want to translate. And actually, they all did. All the Sanskritists wanted to, translate, but they didn't really have time to do that. So he sent away to Motilal Banarsidass. There's a publisher in India, and there's a lot of, about that. To send him the Vedas, before Vedas, That's what he thought, or maybe some Upanishads, I forget. But, he was coming by ship, he was waiting, and he got impatient. So there was this one book, I don't know if you know it, that was published by the Gaudiya Math, which had a lot of the writings of the Goswamis in there, just the Devanagari, which is very concise. I have the whole Bhagavatam on my shelf with just the Sanskrit and English translation, nothing else, And it's like 2 volumes. But can you imagine, if you take the English translation now, you just have the text, it may be 1 volume of like 200 pages, the whole Bhagavatam. So anyway, several of the Rupa Goswami's Bhakti, not the Bhakti, maybe the Bhakti Samadasinda, but the Stavamala was in there, Raghunath Stavavali and other things. So he got that book. A lot of the Sanskritists had it. So he started translating the Stavamala. And by that time, the CC had come out. This was 76. It had been printed in 75. So that had a lot of verses, and I was, into shlokas, and I would memorize the verses, especially Ancha 1. There were all these verses that were quoted from the Vidagdha Madhava. And so I was overjoyed that he was translating this Stavamala, which I heard with Rupa Nectar verses. So anyway, he started giving me the verses, and I was, oh, this is great, and I would memorize it, and I would say, keep going, So every time, so he finished the Stavamala just before I left. I took it with me to Atlanta, and I had that. That's where I started making these recordings. So anyway, it was just, I realized such a gift these verses are. Like, I'll give you a sample. This is one how's it go? Kela vihita yamalajana banjana sulalita chatatana gildajana ranjana lochana natana jitnchala kanjana mampati pali kali ganjana. I mean, just hearing it, right? Isn't it? It's got such a nice beat, and so this is just about Kela vihita yamalajana banjana. He performed the pastime of breaking the two Yamalarjan trees. Kali is pastime. Vihita yamalajana sulalita chatatana gildajana ranjana. So Sulalita means very charming. Sulalita charita, pastimes. With his very pastime, Sulalita charita, Nikala Janaranjana. He delighted all, Nikala Janaranjana, the people in Vrindavan. Ranjana's delighted him. So you can just remember some of those pastimes, crawling here and there, and stealing the butter and all of the charming things that he did. His glance, he would glance back and forth so quickly, looking here and there, just like the Kanjana bird dancing, wagtail dancing. This is a common analogy. Mampadipali Kali Ganjana, old chastiser of Kaliya. This is a later pastime. Please protect me at all times, from Maya, whatever. So that's just one shloka. So anyway, but I say, but okay, I chanted it. You can, appreciate the sound and the meter, but you don't know the meaning. So therefore, this is why I started doing the poetry, because the devotees could understand the meaning, and it was also poetic, and maybe they'd also memorize like that. So here's a few samples. This is one I like to do because it's Bhajanarayana Swami's favorite of all mine, and it's based on a verse that is quoted by Haridas Thakur in a meeting with the Majumdars, meaning Raghunath Das's parents and uncle, his father and uncle. Haridas Thakur was there also, and this Smarta Brahman. You may have, if you read the CC, the Anjali, you see it. So Haridas Thakur says, just once chanting the holy name, just one utterance of the holy name, purely, you would get complete liberation. And there was this materialistic Brahmin there who was a tax collector or something. And he said, that can't be true. Because it's so difficult to get meditation, get the liberation, you have to perform so many austerities. You're saying about once chanting the holy name? Come on. That can't be true. And if it's not true, I'm going to cut off your nose. Great offense to Haridas Thakur, you can imagine. So he just laughed at that. He said, if it's not true, I'll cut my own nose off. And then he chanted this verse and explained it. And I took the verse itself and the explanation, made it into a poem. So here's the verse. It got another. My father was a jazz musician, what I can tell you, and I picked up some of that. A drummer, he was a drummer. Anghak sang hadlatakilang sakadudiyade vasakalalokasya tadaniti batamila jaladin jayachitagan mangalang hare nama. This is in the Anjalila CC. So here's the verse meaning and the explanation. When the moon is invisible, now you have to go back, 500 years. No electricity, no lights, when the sun goes down and the moon is new, it's very dark. And, so that's the scene, When the moon is invisible, withered to nil. So it gets thinner and thinner, right? And then you can't see it. It's not giving any light. This new moon. What do we call it? Amavasya, right? Amavasya. When the moon is invisible, withered to nil, and the sun is long gone from the sky, then an ocean of darkness enveloped this world, and the timorous fear they might die. Timorous means easily scared. Okay? The timorous fear they might die. But that thick pall of gloom is at once swept away when the first signs of sunrise appear, and the dawning of day gives assurance to all that in truth there is nothing to fear. In a similar way, when illusion holds sway, and the soul has forgotten his Lord, then the darkness of ignorance covers his heart. Sin and suffering are his reward. But as soon as he says Krishna's name even once in a manner that doesn't offend, then his ignorance flees like the darkness at dawn, and his sin and his suffering end. So there's nothing to fear, for the sun of the name has appeared with his powers divine. In your heart may that sun, benedictive for all, become fixed and eternally shine. So I send my poetry out freely. You can memorize it. You can put it to music. You can make $1 million. I don't care. I don't want that. I just want you to learn it and propagate. All right, one or two more, and then we'll end. So some of these verses are just beautiful ways of thinking about Krishna, but this one is in the CC. It's quoted at least twice in there. Lord Chaitanya cites it. It's from Krishna Karnamrita. I have a translation, very nice translation. If you're interested, I'll send it to you, with the Sanskrit and word by words. So here's verse, you may know this one already. Easy to memorize. Madodam, madodam, vapodasya vibho. Madodam, madodam, vadanam, madodam. Madogandi medusmitame tadaho, madodam, 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 madodam. Now you already know half the verse, because you know what madodam means, it's sweet. That's practically eight times. So I put it into, this was like practically the first one I ever did. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form. Sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. What's not to like? It's a beautiful way of remembering Krishna. This is another favorite of mine. Queen Kunti's prayers. When I joined, it was the end of March 1973. 2 weeks later, Prabhupada arrived at the temple in Brooklyn. I thought, well, this is just usual, but some devotees waited, they never saw Prabhupada. We joined in Brazil or something, So here he was, and again, he was speaking on Kunti's prayers. And the first one, I think was the first one I ever memorized. Krishnaya Vasudevaya and Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. It's just Krishna's names and then Namo Namaha at the end. This is Queen Kunti offering obeisances. But the one that really struck me that I put into verse is the prayer near the end, where she says, Try me anannibishayam matir madhupate sakrit. Rataman Vahatarandha Gange Baugumadanvati. Now Prabhupada chants this verse, and Gange Baugumadanvati means the flood, Oga, the flood of the Ganges, right near the sea. A river is most broad and voluminous just before it enters the ocean, any river. So she says there, O Madhava, she used the word Madhupati, Madhu's Lord, but that's a little obscure for what, to understand it. This is, she's addressing Krishna, so I made it Madhava. O Madhava, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges' torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. And the verse before this, which I didn't put into a poem, and I may not even know, but she begged the Lord to cut off her attachment to her glorious children, the Pandavas and everyone else. Because she's a mother, so it's transcendental, they're devotees, but it's also material because of this thing. So she wants all the love to go to Krishna, because he's going to leave now. She won't see him again, physically. So that's a few of the poems I have. And it's if you get it, I'll send it to you. You may already have it, some of you, Then you can memorize a few of the favorites, The song. What's that song? Vrajahore manna Shri Nandanandana Abhayacharanara Vindure. So it was made famous by, I think, Yamuna. I think they recorded. Prabhupada loved to sing it. His name is in it, Abhayacharanara. O wretched, foolish mind, just give up all deceit and worship Krishna's fearless lotus feet. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotees. Don't waste this human life, stay close to devotees and cross this worldly sea of miseries. I'll tell you a story about this, then we'll adjourn. In years gone by, although I haven't seen lately, they ran a series of bus tours out of Alachua. The young kids, I think they had girls and boys, And I know on the boys one, Jai Radhaswami would sometimes go as far as Toronto. They would go to the Toronto Ratha Yatra and come there. So they come down here before the LA Ratha Yatra. In fact, they would probably be here right now. Maybe they are coming. But anyway, so, I came in the morning. It was a week till Ratha Yatra. Suddenly the temple is filled with all these young Vaishnavas from Alatra, from the Gurukuls. And there was 2 buses outside, the men, boys' buses and the girls' buses, So I was given class. So I decided to share this song, because they all know that song, Bhaja Hare Mana. It's so famous. Prabhupada chanted it in the Gurukul. They learned the song. So they knew the song, but they were like, really, as soon as I started doing the English, then they were very, very fascinated by it. And what I heard later is that they, I don't know, there weren't so much computer stuff going on, but anyway, they got the words, or they had a printout that I shared with them, and they shared it amongst themselves. And then when they were on the bus, they were singing the English. They were actually relishing, which is very gratifying. So this is an aspect of my service that I did. I haven't written many poems lately, but I did. I went through a period there where I was doing a lot of them, and they compiled them in this PDF file, which I would be more than happy to share with you. And I would be really happy to hear you memorize some. You can even sell them. I don't care, But it's really, what's going on in the Bhagavatam. But the whole thing is going on in Sanskrit. And, we need, so we lose, the translations are great, Prabhupada, but the poetry is lost. Prabhupada himself wrote poetry, as you know, famously that one that has the famous verse in it, absolute ascension thou hast proved, in personal calamity thou hast moved. That's the way he wrote it. But then he got it, then he apparently didn't have it for some years, but then Brahmananda found it in a library in England somewhere. He went to the library and he saw that it was printed. So he brought it to Prabhupada and said, oh, I'm so happy to see that. So there was a letter that he wrote. Maybe he typed it out again from that. And he made all kinds of editing marks on it. He edited it. So in that verse, that famous, absolute ascension thou hast proved, in personal calamity thou hast removed. That's Prabhupada's editing from moved, So anyway, that's Prabhupada was very happy when he saw the poems in the Bhakti Guided magazine. So there we have it. That's the code of the class. Now we've gone over time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Vijay.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead. Others can go. I'll answer your question.
Can you read again the first sentence of the purport to text 17?
I can, and I will.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, you're most kind.
A Brahmin or a sannyasi is qualified, that one?
Yes,
A Brahmin or sannyasi is qualified to ask charity from others, but if he takes more than necessary, he is punishable.
yes, exactly. That is the sentence. So, thank you very much, you're most kind. Based on this sentence, my question would be, he becomes punishable by whom and how? Who is the one who punishes him, and how does he get punished?
I think the basic punishment is from Krishna. It's going on. Or what happens is a Brahmin or sannyasi, he takes more charity. In other words, he's profiteering on his position, right? And
Yes.
It comes out. What you often try to do is you'll try to hide it, but what use is that? So it comes out that they spent this. They're driving a very exorbitant car or something like that in present day, like that. So then what happens is they lose their position. They lose Krishna says at the beginning when he's talking to Arjuna before he's speaking in the level of as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his guru, is speaking friend to friend. So he's saying, what are you doing? You're going to go off, if you leave this battle field, then all of the other great warriors and kshatriyas, they'll think you're a coward. And your name will be demeaned, and for one who is honored, dishonor is worse than death. You see? So that is the thing. The Brahmins and the sannyasis, they're respected, because they follow strictly the principles of the Brahmins and sannyasis, which is living an austere life and not being involved in sense gratification and accumulation of wealth for sense gratification. So that's the punishment. It comes from a society, and ultimately it comes from Krishna. You lose the position. It's similar to this whole thing with the Brahmin caste, where it becomes corrupted when you're just born in the Brahmin caste, and then you can lord it over the rest of society. And so in this way, the varnashram becomes corrupted in society. So everyone needs to know the qualities that they're of their particular caste or ashram, and follow it carefully. Otherwise, they'll lose their reputation and position, and they'll be in trouble. That's the idea. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Dravida Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Vijay. Was that a mistake?